Hello students, in this video I'm going to discuss the functions in Java. This is the part 2. I hope everybody has watched the part 1. If you've not watched, please watch that. It will be quite helpful for you to understand this discussion. Alright, and I'm going to provide the link for the previous part in the comment section. But before moving ahead, I want you all to subscribe my channel, press subscribe button. Alright, students, when I talk about this concept of function, so what is the definition, of the concept called function? So function or method is a block of code to perform a specific task. It is a block of code to perform a specific task. You can put it this way also, that function or method is a group of statements or group of instructions to perform a specific task. Both the way it is correct. And this block of code has a name, because name is very important. You cannot pick up any 2 or 3 statements randomly and you will say this is a function. No, it must be given a name. All right, now advantages. First advantage, it is reusable. Reusability means something which we can use again and again. All right, so once a function is defined and accessible, it can be used any number of times. It reduces the number of statements by removing repetition of statements. Let's discuss that. Students, suppose you have a function to calculate the factorial, and in your program 5 times you have to calculate factorial. So all you need to do is just call that function 5 times at different places. You will get things done. But if the idea of function is not there and the function is not there, in that case you have to write those set of statements to calculate the factorial 5 times. So you can understand how this concept of reusability reduces the size of your problem. And not only that, due to that, the debugging of the program is quite easy. Suppose an error is there in that set of statements for factorial. So all you need to do is to make changes or correct the error in the function at one place, and automatically that change is going to take will be affecting the entire program. So that is the power of function, that it is reusable. Students, after that, reducing complexity. So how a complexity can be reduced through a function? So a complex task can be divided into smaller subtasks. Put one S here. Smaller subtasks by having different methods for different subtasks, so complexity is reduced. We can take the example of calculator again. You can see that in the calculator for different things there are different keys. So a big task has been divided into smaller parts. It's more systematic, more organized, so that way in Java also you can have different functions for different tasks, so that reduces the complexity. So I hope everybody has understood it well. 2 advantages: reusability and reducing complexity. All right. After that, students, categories of functions or methods in Java. So first category is standard or library methods. These methods are the ones which are already defined. So these methods are built-in methods in Java that are available to use. All right. Examples are POW function, that belongs to the math class. Then println function is there, right, which is very much there in the system.out.println statement for printing. Then parseInt function, that is being called using the integer wrapper class, and there are many more. All right, so but these are the functions which are already there with Java. So Java has provided us. Second category is user defined methods. So we have been given this ability to define our own functions or methods as per our needs. Suppose I want to calculate the simple interest. So there is no method provided by Java for that. So in that case, we need to define that function ourselves. And similarly, if I want to calculate the area of a circle, a square, all these things, so we can write our own functions. So our own function are going to be based on our requirements. All right. Now students, we are going to discuss the syntax of method or function definition. All right. Don't get confused that in the previously I said that I have already told you the definition, because the definition was there, that function is a block of code to perform a specific task, and this block of code has a name. It was the definition to make you understand the concept. Now how the real function is created or defined, that is what we are going to discuss just now. Okay, so here students, you see syntax of method or function definition. It begins with access specifier, which is optional, then return type, which is a must, function name, argument list or parameter list, right? Argument and parameter are the two words which are used interchangeably, and this line, right from access specifier to return type to function name to parameter list, this entire thing is known as the function header, and this is also known as function prototype. Okay, students, after that, this pair of curly braces are there, and inside this pair, what is written there? Statements. These are the instructions. Ultimately they are going to be executed to perform a certain task, and this is called the function body. It begins with this opening curly brace, and it is over with the closing brace. All right, I hope everybody has got the clear idea. That's great. After that, students, here we have different parts or the components of the function definition. So first is function header, then we'll discuss the function body. So function header is also referred to as function prototype. I've already told you that. It is following components. Access specifier, it is all about accessibility of the function or scope of usage of a function. It can be either public, private or protected. All right, so students, let's begin with the private. We can have a separate video soon for the access specifier, but right now a short description or detail I am giving you about the access modifiers or access specifiers. All right, you can call it access modifier as well. Now private function, or when the function is is been made private, then it is only accessible by the member function of its own class. Now then we have a public. So function is accessible from everywhere in the program within its own class and by the other classes as well. Maximum accessibility is with the public, private is the minimum accessibility. All right, then we have protected. Function is accessible from all the other member functions of its own class and by the subclasses. That's important. Means protected plays a very important role in inheritance. All right, now students, we have one more here, default access. Actually nobody realizes that that there is no need to have access modifier all the time. It depends upon the requirement, but if you don't write, even then the function works. It's optional. But what happens when the access modifier is not there? So let me tell you, it becomes a default access. What's the meaning is there? When no access specifier or modifier is specified with the method, it is said to have default access. Such methods are accessible only within the same package. Yes, only within the same package. Remember this line. Now students, after that, return type. It is any valid data type of Java. Means it can be int, char, string, any valid data type of Java that tells us about, or that tells about what type of value is going to be returned by the function. The data type of the value which is going to be returned by the function, will be determined through this return type. Okay, now students, if function does not return anything, because there are many times this function displays something, so at that time it doesn't return anything, so in that case its return type will be void. So always remember void keyword. What is the meaning of this? It simply tells us that function is not going to return anything. Okay, now after that, students, function name. Function name is very important, as your name is important to you because your name is used to identify you. So similarly, function also needs a name, an identifier. So name is used to identify the function, must not be a keyword. It must not be a keyword. Always remember, because we have to follow all the rules required for naming a class or interface, or whenever we have to name something, so we have to always take care of the rules for that. So students, here must not be means name of the function must not be a keyword. You cannot have a name of a function as void or int or char or system. They're all keywords. Then it must not begin with a digit, must not have any operator, must not have any spaces. So all these things you need to remember and take care of while writing the name for the function. All right, students, after that we have here, if function name is same as of the class, because their name is something which plays a very, very important role when it comes to function. See some situations here, it will be a big help for some advanced topics. If function name is same as of the class name, it is constructor. All right, purposely I have written underscore here because name doesn't have any space, so class underscore name I have written, right? It is a constructor, and it will be a constructor which has the same name as of the class name, plus one more thing, that it doesn't have any return type, then it becomes constructor. Second is more than one function within the same class. Yes, it is possible, but different number and type of arguments or parameters, then only it is possible. So more than one function within the same class, but different number and type of arguments are overloaded functions, are called overloaded function, and process is function overloading. And this implements the concept of polymorphism, which is an OOPS concept. So right now you focus upon functions, but I have just given you a short detail of all these things. Now after that, parameter list, argument list. So it is optional, students. It is one or more variables with their respective data types. If more than one parameter or arguments are there, then must be separated by comma. Parameter or arguments specified in function definition are known as formal parameters or arguments. Always remember that. The arguments which you specify with the function definition are known as formal parameters or arguments. They receive the values from actual parameters during function execution. All right, students? Very good. After that, students, let's talk about function body. I told you within the pair of that pair of curly braces, we write statements which are executed to perform a certain task. So that is called function body. So function body, it contains a set of statements which are to be executed to perform a certain task. These statements are specified within a pair of curly braces. Alright, students. After that, now we want to discuss the function call. The process of calling or using a function is called function invocation or function call. All these things are same. Function call, function invocation, or using a function, they all are referring to the same process. Students, see the syntax. Function name in the bracket arguments terminated with a semicolon. So this is the function call. All right, everyone? Right. Students, arguments or parameters specified in the function call are called or are known as actual parameters. Ultimately, whatever the operation is taking place upon those arguments, are going to be the actual ones. So they are going to be copied to the formal parameters in the function definition, which I have just told you. Okay. Now to understand it better and how to define the function with the example in different ways. One example I have taken here. Students, just see a function is here. Return type is int. Factorial is the name of the function, and int n. It is going to calculate the factorial of a number n and going to return the factorial from this function. All right. So here we have taken a variable f which is initialized with 1. Then there is a loop which works from 1 to up to n, because we need product of all these numbers from 1 to n to calculate the factorial. So f equal to f asterisk is, f equal to f asterisk I semicolon. If you have any confusion regarding the factorial program, please do watch my previous video in the playlist. It is very much available to how to calculate the factorial. Okay. Now students, after that, return f. Okay. So it will return the factorial. All right. Such function is are invoked in this way. So I have shown you a function call. So void call underscore fact is another function which is going to call the factorial function. So just see the function call. I've just written the name of the function. whenever you call someone, what do? You take the person's name. So similarly here also function is being called, so just write the function name, and if any argument is required, then write the argument in the parenthesis. So 5 was required because one integer argument is required, so I passed one integer through this parenthesis, and a result is going to be returned because all the operations will take place on this number, that is n, and the result will be, or the factorial is going to be returned, and that will be stored by v. This is another variable I have taken since it is returning the integer type, so I have declared a variable of type int. Alright, after that we print factorial is, this is a message, and then v will be there, so message is going to be there on the screen. Students, now just notice this void factorial int n. Alright, now this time what is the difference? I have removed int and this time return is void. That tells us that this function is not going to return anything, so it's only going to calculate and display the factorial. How does it work? Students, just see here, I've written the same piece of code, intf equal to 1 semicolon for int I equal to 1 semicolon I less than equal to n semicolon I plus plus. So it is moving from 1 to up to n, and f equal to f asterisk I. This is inside the for loop body. After that factorial is calculated. Now it will, f will have the value for the factorial, so we write system dot out dot println f, where within this function. So function is closed here. Now you can see here, students, after that we call this factorial function through this function, another one, void call underscore fact parenthesis factorial 5. So when I pass 5, so automatically it's going to print the factorial of 5, which is going to be 125. Is that clear? Now students, factorial will be 120. Alright, now students, here you can see that this argument is the actual argument, and what is written here, this is the formal argument. Similarly here also, this is the formal parameter or formal argument, and which we have passed from here this value through this function call. This is the actual argument or actual parameter. Alright everyone, the function which is being called, which is the factorial one, it is the called environment, and from this call underscore fact, this factorial function has been called. So this call underscore fact is the calling environment. Always remember that. I hope concept is clear to you. We'll be discussing more in the next video. Thanks everyone.